Faced with the monstrous creature before him, Lu Sheng was slightly taken aback. Some of you might think he was scared, but if you have been following the series for a while, you know that will never be the case. In fact, he was actually wondering about how the beast managed to get here in the first place. Not only that, but he had also remembered from his textbooks that such beasts typically possessed strength levels between 5 and 6. Moreover, the beast before him was far beyond the ordinary, boasting a level 7 strength. Suddenly, the creature opened its massive jaws with its sharp teeth alongside unbearable stenchy breath and lunged at Lu Sheng. Then suddenly, the beast raised its sharp, enormous claws and then swiftly aimed for him. But clearly, the ugly bastard did not realize who was he going up against. The moment its massive claws made contact with Lu Sheng, it screamed in agony. Its arm turned in an unnatural shape, seemed broken and convulsing in pain. Lu Sheng shook his head slightly and took a few steps forward, looking a bit disappointing. To him, such a beast was hardly worth mentioning. In his eyes, even a formidable level 7 creature was no more than a detestable insect. Lu Sheng dusted off his clothes as the beast let out another angry screech, extending and opening its massive jaws to reveal hundreds of sharp, spiky teeth and massive, long tongues. It didn't seem to learn from its previous mistake, and lunged at Lu Sheng for the second time, but again, Lu Sheng effortlessly dodged, evading the attack. Lu Sheng is now disappointed in the beast's attack as well as its accuracy, while disdainfully asking if it could aim better. Following that, in a desperate attempt, the creature spat out a glob of green liquid that immediately corroded the ground nearby. Just as the beast thought he had finally landed an attack, however, it turned out that Lu Sheng had already vanished without a trace, the beast turning its head left and right, looking around in vain for him. However, the next moment, Lu Sheng appeared above the massive beast. Switching to flame breathing, he clenched his fist and fiercely struck at the ugly bastard's head, while coldly telling the creature that it was too late for repentance. As the scene shifts, we were back just a few minutes earlier, the same time when Lu Sheng had just entered the building. An incredulous middle-aged man asked the deputy chief if the person who went in was really a freshman from the renowned 7th Divine Martial University. The man seemed to doubt his own ears, but the deputy chief confirmed that she had double-checked the student ID and the documentation. The man gulped hard, his hands shaking uncontrollably, shaking his head in disbelief. Reminding himself just seconds earlier, the speed displayed by Lu Sheng was so fast that even an average grandmaster may not match him. As a peak level 6 martial artist himself, he couldn't even catch a glimpse of Lu Sheng's figure. This caused him to wonder, who exactly is this young guy? Another man in a suit who also managed to escape from the abandoned building earlier decided to report the incident to the Martial Arts Association and the military district. After all, even if the young man was super powerful, if he failed to defeat the level 7 beast, or had the beast let loose, the consequences for the city would be disastrous. The three of them quickly came to an agreement, and just as the deputy chief was about to make a call, a series of loud banging noises came from the abandoned building in the distance, drawing the serious attention of everyone outside. The next second, another loud bang resounded, resulting in a powerful shockwave that not only shook the three of them and the officers, but also flipped over several police cars. As the situation grew increasingly tense, the surrounding officers became more vigilant, gripping their weapons tightly, unsure of what was happening inside the building. The scene suddenly shifted, and we were back with Lu Sheng, revealing the beast in its final struggle, sticking out its tongue and letting out a low scream before collapsing heavily onto the ground. It attempted to struggle to its feet, but its body no longer allowed it, trembling in an effort to flee. The next second, its claw was seized by Lu Sheng, who, with a light flick, spun the monster's body several times in the air before it harshly smashed into the wall, ultimately dying from its injuries. Lu Sheng was speechless at the creature's fragility, while everyone around the building watched nervously, falling silent for a few minutes. Then, a massive shadow from above flew out of the building, prompting everyone to instantly prepare for battle. However, what followed was a scene they would never forget. The terrifying beast that almost wiped out everyone is now lying dead in front of them, motionless on the ground. As the dust settled, it became clear that the fearsome beast had been defeated. Following this, Lu Sheng emerged with a calm demeanor, reported to the deputy chief that the mission was completed, and reminded her to adjust the difficulty level of the mission afterward. There was a moment of eerie silence. Everyone appeared somewhat dazed. In the end, it was the man in the suit was the first to react, bowing at a 90-degree angle to Lu Sheng, expressing his utmost respect. As the chairman of the martial association of this city, his admiration for Lu Sheng was evident. He assured Lu Sheng that the beast's body would be properly dealt with, and that the proceeds would be transferred to Lu Sheng's account. Finally, he thanked Lu Sheng again for his intervention, showing deep gratitude towards the young hero. However, the chairman watched Lu Sheng in disbelief, shocked that a college student could single-handedly and seemingly effortlessly defeat a level 7 beast with his bare hands. It appeared as if, in Lu Sheng's eyes, a level 7 beast was nothing more than a plaything, and he didn't even appear tired for the slightest bit. However, what shocked him the most is that after hearing Lu Sheng decides to refuse the money and instead wish to donate the proceeds to the families of the deceased, hoping that the money would be enough for these families so they could live comfortably for the rest of their lives, left the president momentarily at a loss for words. Looking at Lu Sheng again, this time, his eyes filled with immense admiration. Finding that the taxi had left, Lu Sheng requested the deputy chief's assistance in hailing him a cab, hoping to reach the high-speed train station before sunset. Deputy Chief was momentarily stunned, however. She quickly regained composure and then offered to drive Lu Sheng to the station personally. As she put it, was a way to show her respect and gratitude. However, Lu Sheng's charming smile made the young deputy chief's pretty face blush, quickly diverted her gaze to focus ahead. She suddenly thought of the plots from the romantic novels she had read the previous night, and some strange ideas popped up in her mind. She even blurted out, No, that's not allowed," in a peculiar manner. Lu Sheng looked at her, puzzled, feeling she was acting somewhat oddly, momentarily making the atmosphere somewhat awkward. However, what he was really thinking was the appearance of the level 7 beast in the city. Such creatures rarely breached the front lines, let alone appeared in an abandoned building in a small city. Their sudden and deep incursion raised suspicions of similar incidents in the past, where although the beasts breaching were relatively weaker, they were usually quickly dealt with by the military and the martial association once they crossed hundreds of kilometers past the national border. Lu Sheng was filled with questions. What circumstances were hidden behind the appearance of this beast? Did it signify that a greater crisis was imminent? While in the car, the two didn't talk much. The deputy chief frequently glanced at Lu Sheng through the rearview mirror, noticing he was constantly looking down at his phone, which left her feeling a tinge of disappointment. Although the situation had been resolved, the cause of the incident made him feel something was off. While contemplating the recent events, he checked his phone to search for any news related to the incident. Quickly, he found a plethora of information and news reports. As it turned out, there were enemy spies smuggling beasts across the border, but had been caught. Reports hinting at the resurgence of hostilities between two countries, and various theories on why beasts were increasingly invading cities, along with some conspiracy theories. After scanning through the information, Lu Sheng had a rough idea of the situation. Thinking about a scene 10,000 years from now in the dream realm, where the civilization of martial arts had completely fallen into ruin and desolation, he suddenly felt a surge of inexplicable anger and irritation towards these internal strife and schemes among humanity. Despite having a common enemy, there were still nations engaging in internal divisions, stabbing each other in the back. Lu Sheng certainly wanted to beat some sense into these people, but he knew his current strength was insufficient. However, if there came a day when he was strong enough, he had only one thought: to beat the shit out of them so severely they wouldn't even be recognized by their own mothers. Seeing the change in Lu Sheng's expression through the rearview mirror, the deputy chief gently asked, but he would eventually solve all of it. Seeing Lu Sheng's response, she didn't press further. Soon, they arrived at the station, and Lu Sheng thanked the deputy chief before getting out of the car and heading towards the high-speed rail station with his backpack on his shoulders. The female deputy chief watched Lu Sheng's figure gradually disappearing in the crowd, her usually composed demeanor now that of a smitten fangirl, her heart racing and beating fast in anticipation of their next meeting. Hopefully, it won't be too long. Back in White Lake City, Lu Sheng's hometown, students at his old school were taking a martial arts practical class in the gymnasium. A girl leaped up in the air and landed a flying kick which defeated a much taller and burlier male student with just hit. The seemingly stronger student, lying on the ground unable to get up, weakly conceded defeat. This was Lu Sheng's sister, Lu Qing, who received enthusiastic applause from the surrounding students. The teacher praised her non-stop, suggesting everyone learn from her. Lu Qing smiled and nodded before returning to her spot to wipe off her sweat with a towel. A few female classmates came over, who were all good friends with her, joking that Lu Qing was set to be the top student in the city. However, Lu Qing didn't seem enthusiastic about it. One of them asked why she wasn't excited. Rolling her eyes, Lu Qing expressed her frustration, saying that if they were also being constantly compared to her brother, a top national martial scholar, it wouldn't make them feel any better either. The two girls were momentarily left speechless, then clung to her arms, appearing like fangirls, asking when her brother would be free. They remembered he had once offered to treat them to a meal, but now they insisted that they would be happy to treat him as long as he could make it. Lu Qing wore a look of helplessness, wondering what exactly made her brother so appealing. She treats them as besties, and they want to become her sister-in-law. She hastily waved her hands, admitting she didn't even know what her brother was up to, only that he was attending the 7th Divine Martial University right now. Her friends, persistent, continued to nag her until she saw an opportunity to escape, running out of the gymnasium only to bump into someone solid as iron, causing her to fall on her butt. With a mix of annoyance and curiosity, Lu Qing looked up to see a handsome man smiling down at her, offering a hand to help her up. She couldn't believe her eyes, and in the next second, she leaped up and found herself hugging him. Lu Qing, ecstatic, jumped and asked Lu Sheng how he had come back so soon. Lu Sheng was slightly taken aback, not expecting such a joyful reaction. He recalled the last time Lu Qing hugged him, like this was probably when they were in kindergarten. Smiling, he mentioned he had just completed a mission in a nearby city and decided to check in. Lu Qing, curious, inspected him all around for any gifts he might have brought. Nodding, Lu Sheng opened his backpack, prompting an eager and excited look from Lu Qing. However, the excitement quickly died off as he pulled out several bottles of what seemed like high-grade supplements, handing them to her, while saying they would help her improve her martial strength. Lu Qing, catching them, let out a sigh and pouted, remarking that her brother was super dense and really didn't understand girls. Their warm sibling moment was abruptly interrupted by a basketball flying towards them. The ball, speeding towards Lu Sheng's head, could have caused a mild concussion to an ordinary person, but Lu Sheng, unafraid of even grandmasters, easily caught it with one hand. Narrowing his eyes, he looked towards a student walking up to them. Lu Qing looked at her brother with concern, asking if he was all right. Lu Sheng, with a smile, assured her there was no issue and casually tossed the basketball aside. The male student, rubbing his wrist and wearing a sport tank top, clearly the one who had thrown the basketball, kept his eyes on Lu Sheng, especially noting how Lu Qing was holding onto the man's arm, causing his tone to be slightly hostile. However, Lu Qing was visibly annoyed by the student's presence, clearly not fond of him. As the student approached and stood in front of them, questioning who the man beside Lu Qing was, she rolled her eyes and deliberately leaned closer to Lu Sheng, dismissively telling him it was none of his business, before pulling Lu Sheng away, clearly not interested in engaging in further conversation. The male student, feeling provoked, loudly called out Lu Qing's name and, in a fit of anger, criticized her for bringing an old man to humiliate him. Even if she didn't like him, she didn't need to do that. The siblings looked at each other, speechless. Lu Sheng, pointing to himself, realized the student had referred to him as an old man, which was a slight blow to his ego. Lu Qing, infuriated, delivered a swift kick to the boy, targeting a particularly vulnerable spot that would incapacitate any man, martial artist or not. The boy instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Lu Sheng, witnessing the scene, felt a bit sorry for the student and even asked if he was all right. The boy, tears streaming down his face from the pain, managed to run off but not without turning back to threaten Lu Sheng, saying he would get someone to deal with him eventually. Well, this bonobo just done goofed. Lu Sheng obviously didn't take his words seriously. While watching the student's retreating figure, he actually found the situation quite amusing. He turned to his younger sister, laughing while asking if the boy was someone trying to pursue her. Lu Qing, with a look of disgust, complained, saying the boy had been bothering her every other day, and it was super annoying. Regarding a boyfriend, Lu Qing believed that the person would at least need to defeat her in combat, but she doubted there was any boy in White Lake City capable of that. Lu Sheng, appearing thoughtful, entertained the possibility, and solemnly advised her to stay away from anyone who suddenly transfers schools. Sitting in the back next to a window in the class, who is secretive, likes to talk to themselves, confused, even broke the fourth wall to tell Lu Sheng he was in the wrong story, pointing out that they were in apex future martial arts, not these other stories. Jokes aside, she suddenly became curious and asked about the progress between Lu Sheng and Senior Yang. Lu Sheng looked at her confused, not catching her drift, and said they were just friends, and he treated her to meals every now and then. When she prodded him about whether they had held hands or watched movies together, Lu Sheng realized what she was getting at and pinched his sister's cheek in response. Lu Qing then remembered something else and mentioned that Lu Sheng's bestie, Ming, telling him that Ming didn't get into a good martial arts university and decided to enlist in the military instead. He had wanted to say goodbye to Lu Sheng, but by that time, Lu Sheng had already left for the capital to attend university. Hearing this, Lu Sheng immediately took out his phone to catch up with Ming, only to find out that Ming had joined the Eastern Military District.